Welcome everybody to the ACSN podcast. It's the African and Caribbean Students Network podcast. You're here with myself, Adebola, Adeleye.
My name is Patrick Belinga, and I'm one of the trustees and founding team members of the ACSN. I was previously president of the ACS at Brooks a couple of years back, and off the back of that, we got a team together to start the ACSN. Of the frustrations that we saw, of the vision that we want to have, that we have for the ACSN, originally from Cameroon, still Cameroonian, so very proud of that. And yeah, I'll pass it on to you.
Yeah, so I'm Adebola Adeleye. I was the ACS president at the University of Essex. After my tenure there, I started the National African and Caribbean Society with a group of individuals. It transpired that no longer became tenable after running it for about 5 years. However, after the sort of George Floyd incident and Black Lives Matter, I kind of saw that there's a need for this organization, especially within the UK. So started up the Instagram, and then there was a lot of traction with that in terms of ACSs responding and wanted to see it come into fruition. However, it was just me at that time, so I thought, let me reach out to like-minded individuals, reached out to the ACSN, and then we sort of formulated a collaboration, which I'm here now. I'm a proud member of the trustee group, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Before we move on, we want to thank the Africa Centre in London for hosting us for the recording of this podcast. So you're probably listening to us now for a while and asking who are we and what is the ACSN. So I'm going to give my explanation, but we'll both give our explanations as to what the ACSN is for us, or rather to us. For me, it came from frustrations that I saw in the ACS and just understanding why it was such a difficult thing to get a group of other ACSs together. Not only that, but weirdly enough, there is a gap of not having ACSs talk to each other. And it kind of goes into mirroring the habits and the way things are in African countries, which is also why I wanted to join the ACSN, is because, a lot of things that we see today as ACSs are a lot of things that we see in African countries. So, just a bunch of frustrations coming from it. Thought about, okay, why is there not a way, or rather, should there not be a way to then group a bunch of ACSs together in order to collaborate, in order to create, in order to debate, to talk, to, whatever, just to be within the same sphere. And so that's where it came from for me. And I see this as a long-term thing. We've got a 40-year plan for the ACSN, and we're on the way to executing it. And after 40 years, we'll have another 40-year plan to make sure that it doesn't go in vain. But that's my explanation. Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, so the way I look at it is if you dissect the UK black population, right, and if you look at who's going to be the most impactful, sort of long-term in society, intergenerational, all stratas of the economy, you're probably going to distill it down to ACS students, funny enough, like university students. They're going to be your doctors, teachers, scientists, they're going to be your entrepreneurs, they're going to be your business leaders, your thought leaders, politicians. When I started NACS, I never knew that Belinga Ribeiro, who was one of the founding members, was going to be the MP for Streatham Hill. She understudied under Diane Abbott and, is now where she is. So these are all the people that are going to be, the movers and shakers of society, right?
Literally.
So at the moment, it's very segmented. You've got some ACSs, they're popping. Some of the ACSs, they've got good economic foundations financially. Some of them have definitely. Some of them have a structure to their year. But a lot of them, some of them are, small ACSs, more on the fringes, don't have the funding, don't have the structure, and few and far in between. But essentially, they're all fragmented. So what I see the ACSN is, bringing them all together, strength through numbers, going far, going together,
Yeah.
instead of, going fast alone. How do we plan and how do we create an institution that's going to be able to change the trajectory of UK society? Right now, our young people and all the black people are on the lowest index of the worst things that happen in society. So that can be, things like poverty, things like single parent household, lack of employability, health issues. Where's the institution? If you pointed out, where is the institution? Where is the black institution that's doing?
Yeah.
Nowhere. So that's what we want to be. We want to be that first and foremost. We want to help ACSs to flourish and be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
Networking in terms of support they can get, in accessibility. But, like you're saying, the 40-year plan is to be that organization that's able to socially engineer, that's able to get the black community to where it needs to be, flourishing again.
No, that's well put together. I also wanted to, in what you were saying, I don't want to forget the more, because now you've got, even before you had the Nigerian ACSs and you had the Somali ACSs and you had the Kenyan ACSs, like we don't want to also forget those, because those like arguably are equally as important as the main ones. So when we say, we want it to be a hub, we want the ACSN to be an umbrella, it also includes the non-official ones, I guess.
Yeah, and that's not to say like the 100 Black Men of London or the Sister Space or what is it, Anthony Joshua, he's got a foundation that he's doing. That's not to say there's not other foundations out there, there's not other organizations, institutions out there that are not doing great things. But in terms of that niche, that space, in terms of universities, carrying it through, our 3-stage plan, helping with, mentoring young people within the history, self of identity, culture, looking to get to university, how to get there, making ACSs flourish, and then creating that alumni network so when people go out there and become the movers and shakers of society, we can act as a connection.
You never know who's going to help you with what. Someone might have the skills and expertise that you need to create something.
Yeah.
And it might not necessarily be in a university, but it can be in another university.
Yeah.
You just might not have known about it if, you're not part of a group.
Yeah, in my professional career, the trajectories I've had is always the guy that you knew that just said, look, do this, do that, and then you get to the next level. I'm not saying that's the way it always works. Everything is done through merit, right? But a lot of the time, that saying, it's not what you know, but who you know, goes unmissed. And we want to be the what you know so that, who you know can get you through.
Who you know,
If I get it right. I got it wrong way, right way.
It's like a rap bar. Yeah, again, just to get back into the 40-year thing, we see our current objectives are to provide information, so hence this podcast, to let you know of who we are, make you aware of who we are. It also goes into much deeper things, right? So right now, we want to get as many ACSs on board of the ACSN as we can. We've spoken to a lot of them. A lot of them have been interested. Yeah. A lot of the people in the committees actually even want to, kind of join, and we'll get into that by the end of the podcast. But that's the, I guess, 1-year plan. And then later on, I think it's a good time to present the idea of clusters, right? Having regional ACS groups that are doing things within themselves. But then if you've got different clusters around the UK, you can have different clusters. You can have a southwest cluster doing something with Midlands cluster. So that could be a group of 5 different ACSs within each cluster doing things together. And so that's what we're organizing at the moment. We're in discussions with different institutions that maybe not the ones that you mentioned necessarily, but different institutions that want to do things with us, and then just build onto it later on. Some of the people that are in the trustee are really interested in history, are really interested in education. I'm particularly interested in the economic development side of ACSs, but also the members. And so I feel like let's just do it, you know? It's kind of like start off by getting a group together, having those group of people doing things together, and then just slowly providing more and more value over time so that we do get to the 40 years and then do something else after that. But yeah, do you have anything else to add in terms of what we're achieving and what we want to achieve in the next couple of years?
Yeah, no, I feel we got that on point.
Cool. Yeah, how do we, next segment I think is how did we come together?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, I started the National African and Caribbean Student Society, NACS, back in 2012 with Balavi Ribeiro Adi, again, who's the now the MP of Streatham and Brixton Hill, Tejo Laye, Bosaya Bidako and Nima Hussein. You know, we did great things. We did a winter ball with over 250 guests at the Camden Centre. You know, we were sponsored by Powerful Media. We did collaborations with HSBC, with Ernest & Young. You know, we did networking events all around the country. But in terms of the organisation, it came to the fruition where there was too many moving parts that didn't actually come together succinctly. So it ended up, unfortunately, phasing out. So it languished for about a couple years, and then, like you're saying, there was the George Floyd incident, the Black Lives Matter incident, there was the Tottenham riots, there was all of these monumental events, not to mention everything that was going on in the diaspora, but all these monumental events within the UK. And I thought it was just a burning desire to be like, no, actually, NACS or something of the like has to be there to be the spokespeople, to be the change maker, to be that institution that when things happen, the black community can actually have some strength and have some backing to go to. Right. And we can also implement things so we're not so reactive. You know, we can put things in place so these things don't happen. You know what I mean? We lower the criminality of black people. We heighten the employability and the organizations, the companies that black people build. So yeah, I didn't let that rest. I started up the NACS Instagram account, which is like, well, hey, but it's just, yeah, it was well received by a lot of the ACSs, which again gave me proof of concept that, you know, this is still something that is needed. I ran that for a couple of years, and then I was just feeling like, you know what, I'm going fast alone, but I want to go far with others. There must be you know, other people out there. So I said my little prayer and God answered it, man. I found the ACSN, I reached out to them and they were receptive to what, you know, I wanted to achieve. We had synergy in terms of what we wanted to achieve. So I jumped on board as one of the trustees, and a year later, we're here now launching a podcast.
Yeah. So ACSN for me started off with, I was having a lot of discussions with Muvunya, who's one of the trustees, about the frustrations of Africa, which is like, you talk a lot of, everyone always talks about those frustrations, but no one ever does anything about it. And we mirrored it to some of the frustrations that we were having and experiencing in the ACS. So he was also part of the committee when I was president. We talked about all these things, from it being difficult to collaborate with other ACSs around the area, from a funding perspective, and not only that, if you're in a committee or you've been in a committee or you're going into a committee, you will know about funding issues with the student union, all the way to attendance. At the start of the year, September, boom, 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 yeah, great, you're gonna have 80% of your members attending. May, not so much, maybe 30%. So experiencing all these things and talking about, you bring in the aspect of collaboration, excuse me, you bring in the aspect of collaboration. there is not that big of a disconnect between what is going on in African countries and what is going on in the ACS. And so because we're here, let's do something about the ACS issues that we find here today. And so that's where it came from. We then talked about what it would look like, what is the vision, what do we hope to achieve, and how long do we think it's going to take before we see tangible results. And so, yeah, we spoke to another trustee member called by the name of Elazia, and she was on board. She was very happy to join. She also has experience in being a committee member of the ACS, so it just worked. And again, as Adebola said, he found his way to us, I guess. And so that's kind of how it all came together, just through this shared frustration and the urgency to want to do something about it, and trusting in each other to be able to do something about it. And having this podcast is a way to not only present ourselves on a video format or on an audio format, but it's also for a way for the people that are frustrated to then know that there is this small group of frustrated people that are doing something about it. And whether you're in a committee whether you're in a committee of your ACS or you're joining, this is a chance for you to do something about it, right? Rather than let's not complain and dwell all the time. Let's actually be active with the changes that we want to make.
Where do you see ACSN in like 5 years' time, 1 to 5 years? What are we going to be doing?
5 years, it is having all the ACSs in the country as part of the ACSN. It is having a bigger team of volunteers, people that are passionate. We're not getting paid for this, guys, by the way, if you didn't know. So this is based out of volunteering, based out of the need to want to do something about it. So again, having a bigger team, experienced people within the space, hosting events as well, right? Because we're not going to be, there is a benefit to hosting an event, whether it's a conference, whether it's little get together within the clusters. We want to be able to host that. We also want to now be in the cadence of providing funding for the big ACSs, but also more importantly, the smaller ACSs, and having them being able to host events that they want, being able to, I don't know, whatever competition, healthy competition that they want to do, everything else, whatever they want, we want to be able to help them with it. We want to be able to have the alumni network, again, that will continuously compound in strength. Like that will never not fail. Having that, people now can, if someone wants to go into biotech, they'll have hopefully someone who has studied biotech, went into the industry, went to I don't know if managing directors are in the biotech space, but going to that C-suite level or that top level, and is now able to give advice as to how to get into the industry through this hub, through this umbrella, through this network called the ACSN.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I definitely think that financial stability and just that impact in the culture of ACSs, it will just be solid.
Mm-hmm.
Every ACS will know where we are, how to reach us, and how they can, impact us and how we can impact them. And also just on the wider landscape, moving into spaces where we're impacting the economy of the UK, mm-hmm. right? By providing employability opportunities, providing spaces and incubators where, I know we had the conversation, sort of like venture capitalists or crowdfunding, getting a bunch of entrepreneurs together and creating the next fintech for the UK, or creating the next fashion house or brand for the UK. All these things can be incubated and impact. So that's the kind of space that we want to be venturing into in the next 1 to 5 years, I think.
What do you think the hardest part about building ACSN has been so far?
Hardest part, I think, let's have it right, yeah? There's certain communities out there within the UK, if you said you're doing this, you would pick up the phone to X, Y, and Z, and they'll be like, here's this wherever six-figure sum or sum there is. I'm not saying that we're not worthy of that, but all I'm saying is I haven't seen it yet. And I've been in this game for a few years now and approached a lot of individuals, high net worth in big, organizations, doing things. I just don't think there's the capacity there yet, or there's for want of a better word, there's the impetus yet for people to fund an organization like this straight off the bat, which is why this podcast, I think, is going to be great, because once we get the message out there and the idea out there succinctly of what we are and what we want to do, we should be getting funding and help left, right, and center, because I say it's like the post-it note, right? It's like an invention that, why wasn't it there before? You kind of think of it as it's just a no-brainer, right? So hopefully we'll have those, no-brainer moments with the right people, and we'll get that support and funding, which will be able to allow us to flourish.
Yeah.
But that's historically been one of the main setbacks and drawbacks of anything that African and Caribbeans want to do within this community. I mean, if you look at the business landscape with our entrepreneurs, be it hair shops, why they are not flourishing because they were taken over by the Asian community or a different community, because they were undercut in terms of the wholesale, or they weren't patronized by the black community. There's issues like that are kind of permeating through our community, which need to be sort of challenged, but they can only be challenged institutional wise and culturally.
Interesting take. Yeah. For me, hardest part about being in the ACSN has, not every ACS understands the importance of building this hub. I think that's, like, if I was to shorten the answer, that's what it'd be. So it's unfortunate that there is an education piece, which is fine, it's understandable, but it just takes some committee members in some ACSs a little bit longer to understand the what I deem to be the necessity for them to be part of.
Human beings we're all the same, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of a what's in it for me, which is understandable, because we have to make it palatable to someone that doesn't know us out of the blue, an ACS committee that doesn't know us out of the blue, to be like, okay, what is in it for me? Do you know what I mean? What do I get out of this? And that, like you're saying, it's just a communication, aspect, which we're working on.
Which we're doing as we speak.
Yeah.
I want to move on to what are the experiences what are some of the most iconic experiences that you had in your ACS? Yeah.
Yeah, one of the most iconic experiences, I'll talk about a couple. I remember I was big into comedy. I think when I started going to university, I just started going to like comedy clubs and comedy shows.
Nice.
And it just being a space where you see black people and all people in the community just laughing at the same kind of cultural aspects and jokes and stuff like that. So I wanted to host a comedy show. There was a place called the Lakeside Theatre in the University of Essex campus. Those who went there would know about it. So I reached out to the manager of that place and said, look, this is what I want to do. Pascal, hats off to him. He was like, hey, take the space. All you need to do is fill it with the numbers. We'll take the tickets. You kind of, we'll take the bar, you take the tickets. We could fund it through that way. And then this was the times where social media wasn't popping. You couldn't really go to a yellow pages and say, okay, how do I get a top comedian? So what I did is I went on a few flyers, I went to a few comedy shows, and I ended up being able to book Kojo, who's like Kojo the comedian. He's done great stuff now. Baba Tunde, who you see all over Gogglebox, and also a guy called Terrence, who's really good. And we held a sold-out comedy show. Everybody was really over the moon with having that level of talent come to Essex University.
Okay.
And it was a really great time. And another one, because I was, a lot of my friends say like I was kind of ahead of the times in terms of this kind of
this
kind of historical renaissance. You know, a lot of things you see now on Instagram is like, did you know Mansa Musa was the like I was up on that, you know, in the early 2000s. So I reached out to a professor called Dr. Kimani Nahusi, and he came down and he did a fantastic lecture on you know, early African civilization and racial identity within the UK, and he kind of tied it in. And we got it was only about 30 to 40 students that attended the event, but it kind of ticked that box for me to kind of whet the appetite of ACS's students to kind of know their history and be embedded in their cultural identity in a proud way, because we've done so much great stuff. I think knowing our history and the knowledge of our history is so impactful as a black person. I mean, I grew up in Essex, which is probably at the time in the early 90s, you know, early 2000s, was predominantly Caucasian, sprinkle of Asian, and a few others. Small black community in there, here and there. Taught in school, you're taught English literature, you're taught about, you know, the Tudor era and everything like that. You're not really taught about your history, you're not really taught about your identity. If you watch TV, you just see Linford Christie, or you see, you know, rappers on TV and stuff like that. You don't know that you watch Roots and you think that, you know, the history started with, a certain part of history started with slavery within America. Not knowing that when you go all the way back, you know, we're like the inventors of arts and arithmetic and medicine and civilization. We had great kingdoms like the Ghana, the Songhai, the Zulu, the whole ancient Kush, ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. You know, we've done fantastic things. And once I knew that history, that just gave me a little bit of an edge up and a little bit more of a self-assertiveness, self-worth, to know that whatever people say, you know, I remember going to school and being called monkeys or African bum cleaner, or, you know, when you're walking back from, it's crazy, bro. Like when I was walking, so basically where I live, there's a roundabout called like the Redbridge roundabout where I used to live. And this is like one of the busiest roundabouts in the UK. On a monthly basis, you know, you'd have white van man screaming and throwing stuff at you. And this is like back in the early 90s when, you know, it was peaking, it was like racist. You couldn't go to Dagenham, you couldn't go to Romford and certain ends because you're getting chased out and you're getting called this, that and the other. But I found that as I grew up and I found my identity, I obviously always knew that, you know, I'm Nigerian, I'm Yoruba, what that meant. I've been to Nigeria and everything like that. But often when you speak to like the elders, and you probably have it because I've got Cameroonian brother-in-laws, there's still that same diatribe of, back home, the government is so useless, they can't do this, I can't. So you have a racial pride and a pride about being, you know, Nigerian. But
useless governments.
We also have a useless government. It's also kind of, there's that dichotomy of back home is not great, we were colonized, etc., etc. But when you understand that, we were once great and we once done great things, you know, it just gives you that aspiration and that hope for a better future, which I think a lot of our youth are missing, and a lot of people are missing in general. And it goes both ways, you know, in terms of people actually knowing the true history of Africa and that influencing their stereotypes and their judgments.
I hear that. I think I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but the fact that all the trustees have different interests, but we also grew up differently. Like I grew up in Egypt, so I didn't necessarily get that. The racism wasn't, I wasn't being thrown stuff.
So this is news to me. I didn't know you grew up near the pyramids, boy.
Ride camel to school. I used to start when I.
Did you actually ride a camel?
No. See, that's why I used to tell people when I came here, or even when I was going on holidays, I'll just say it, and then the gullible ones would believe, and then the ones that, you know what it means to have roads and cars would be like, nah, that's not true. But just I think you can, where I saw a space for improvement was, we were there for like 16 years, and I saw it going from, like I saw it going through its developing phase, where like there'll be new roads everywhere. You go to, like I'll come here for boarding school or for uni, go back for holidays and you're seeing like just new roads, new bridges, new buildings, like
Infrastructure.
Yeah, like all the time, constantly. Even today, even today, constantly. So it kind of showed me what happens when you have ambitious people that want to better the country, better the people. And I feel like, again, if you want to mirror it to the UK, I have some context to what being a black person and living in the UK is like now, but I don't have context of growing up in the UK like you might have.
So how did you get from Cameroon to Egypt?
Long story. It's not for.
It doesn't involve a camel.
It's not for legit, by the way. Hey,
Yeah.
come on now. But yeah, it's really, really interesting. But yeah, again, there is a link, and there's a reason why I brought up the whole growing up aspect that links to the ACSN. It's like it can actually be done. The aspect of bringing people together and having a goal, whether it's take China getting out of poverty, whether it's Egypt developing itself. We also want to do this for ACSs of like understanding that you in some cases you don't actually need a student union. You might be really frustrated. They might use certain words subtly to not allow you to do certain events that you want to do, or even get funding for normal events, or you hear that, this society got, I don't know, 20K for the whole year and you got 7K or even less than that. But again, going back to it, the whole reason why we want the ACSN to exist is because if you're having that issue, you can go to us and we'll find a way to be helpful. And again, it's also, you don't necessarily have to come to us as an ACSN. You could, through the hub or through the network, go to another ACS that has experienced it and see how they got out of it, or speak to them about how they got out of it, or we can get the information for you and explain to you maybe these are the aspects and the ways that you want to get away from that. And on top of that, we also want to then be able to help you financially or whatever it might be, or to set up an event, or to host an event, or to be able to collaborate with other ACSs so that you don't feel constrained, you don't feel like you're locked in, you feel like you can actually just do whatever you, not necessarily whatever you want, but do what you think is best for the committee, but also what you think is best for the members, ultimately. So, again, went on a tangent, but yeah.
Yeah, so say we had like a magic genie and we had those 3 wishes, and one of the wishes that we used was we want unlimited resources for the ACSN. What would we do with that? What would the ACSN look like?
Damn. A lot of funding. Okay, scratch that. A lot of resources. So it doesn't have to be money. It can be people. It can be institutions. So just being able to, again, if we were talking financially, being able to have a lot of funds to allocate to ACSs, it would be having resources. So whether that is like we talk about funding, like its own venture capital kind of space. I'm like very much into like the whole startup life. So I'm seeing things from like, that's why I'm bringing up this whole funding aspect. And in terms of resources, like the alumni network counts as a resource. So just having that grow and just being huge and being like just never fading, essentially. I think I said that. It's the second time I say that. But yeah, I think that's the main thing, limited resources. But then it's like, it's a bit of a cheat thing because resources could mean so many things.
Yeah, I think the main thing, unlimited resources, it allows you to plan, right?
Right.
So, you can plan decades or years into the future because you have a steady revenue stream, you have the people that's able to implement the measures that you want to put in place. Yeah. You have the infrastructure, whether it's just like equipment, whether it's just like transport fees, etc., etc. Yeah, that kind of level of independence just allows you to like implement and move a lot quicker. So I think everything that we want to do would move at a trajectory that's things get accomplished, because obviously, okay, we want to do a national conference. Boom, we've got venue money, we've got transport fees, we've got the infrastructure of people that are able to implement structure of the day. You know, we got sponsorship. So yeah, that's in an ideal world where we'll be, and we'll get there. You know, we'll get there.
We will, no, for sure. How was your experience as a president overall? What would you say? Like, what are the things that you implemented? What are the things that you wish you implemented when you left?
Yeah, man. So my experience was life-changing, and it really let me know what kind of person I was, you know, in terms of my leadership style and things like that. I think we did great things. You know, we hosted loads of events. I did this all whilst doing a law degree, whilst being on the basketball and football team and socializing and stuff like that. Yeah. But it did let me understand that time management skills is key. And also when you're delegating resources, you have to make sure that people are as bought into it as you are, because you might be asking someone to do something for you and they might say, yeah, I'm going to do this. But at the end of the day, they're not bought into it. You know, they're going to let other priorities take over and come into place. Right. And obviously that's just part of being young and having to balance your time and your kind of energies and stuff like that. But it's also, I think I was very focused on the cultural aspect. So, you know, the education pieces, I mean, I had Tony Warner as well from the 100 Black Men of London come down and do a lecture, Dr. Kimani Nahusi. We had the African and Caribbean Sports Days, we had food fests, comedy shows, etc., etc. But the one thing I didn't kind of listen about was, you know, doing the parties, because that's a huge part of the African and Caribbean experience. But I didn't want to be labelled as the ACS president that just does parties. I was like, there was people doing parties out there. I mean, Colby, who's now the CEO of Grime Daily, he was at my university, he was in the upper year, and we linked up with him to host ACS parties. And I thought like that was kind of enough, but because it wasn't branded as ACS parties,
people felt like you weren't doing it.
I weren't doing it, I weren't listening to them, which it kind of let me know, you know, an aspect of myself that I need to fix, that, you know, you need to kind of listen a bit more clearly, you know, to what people are saying and what those who support you and support your mission want. But all in all, I came through with the same sort of hesitations from the SU, you know, not giving information, not allowing us access to funding, not allowing us to do certain events in rooms that were booked but weren't booked, you know, and stuff like that. Okay. So the usual, you know, what do they call them, passive aggressive or whatever kind of situations that you get yourself in as a young black man. But on the whole, fantastic experience. Don't regret a thing, and we'll do it all again, you know?
Nice. Yeah. I think some of the things you mentioned, like particularly I came in with the aspect of, I wasn't really keen on doing parties. I was more on the like education side of things, or just the let's meet outside of parties kind of vibe. Because again, similar to you, I felt like there was enough, you know, you had enough house parties, you had enough club nights, you had enough organized club nights. I don't think you need, and even then when I was in the committee, we were doing collaborative club events, right? So we had in Oxford, we have I think he's still there, 6 Millie. So he's an event organizer for some of the clubs in Oxford, and he would organize this thing, and we would let people know through our channels. And I felt like that was enough. So I was very much in that, let's bring more value than just going to parties. And if you're in my master's, when I was doing my master's degree up north, there was like the ACS for my uni was just partying. I was like, it didn't really appeal, you know. It didn't appeal to me. I felt like it was hollow.
Because it's a cultural appreciation society, and there's more to our culture than just partying.
Well,
Even though
literally, yeah.
We party the hardest, but you don't need.
Yeah,
to.
it's like again, I felt like it just wasn't it. But overall experience really good. Again, like you, learned a lot about organization, learn about team. How do you work with individual committee members, because like they have different interests, they want to do different things, they have different ways in which they work, so you want to be able to manage all of that. But yeah, again, like I said, I was very much into the whole, not necessarily academic side of things, but just the more like let's do things outside of parties, man. Like, you get enough, you know. Like the whole week is full of parties. Like it's fine. So we did. We worked with, I forgot the title of her role, but she wasn't part of the ACS. I think Black Student Officer or something. And we had a room, again, I'm quite disconnected now, so I don't know if it's still a thing, but we had a room at the university that was just for essentially Black people, like for Black people to hang out. And you can go there to work in the day, and we will organize different events in there, like debate nights. We had like, I think, pajamas night for the girls. We had, just a bunch of different things, which means that we didn't necessarily encounter the booking issue that you had, because we had that room that we can kind of go to for default. If we wanted more space, we can then book somewhere else. But I don't think I wanted, I mean, what I did, I was happy with what I did. There are things that I wish I did before I left, but the people that took over the last couple of years have done those things. So I'm happy that we as a committee introduced those ideas and then they were executed by other people, which kind of, I want to like talk about, not just mention the whole, there's a problem with continuity in ACS committees. We had it before we joined, like officially, where we were encountering it. There's a lot of things that, everything was missing in terms of handover situation. So we had to learn on the job. So the first 3 months was it was heavy on learning how things work and everything. So when we left, we made sure that we had as much resources for the next people as possible. So being able to provide a handover booklet or handover document was really important. Mm-hmm. And we even wrote an article about it on ACSN.org that talks about how do you transfer information to the next committee as smoothly as possible. So yeah, overall, great. Learned a lot. Good to put on your CV as well. But yeah, it was good.
Cool,
it was
man.
good. Good little period of time. But I think that's it.
Yeah.
So there's a part, call to action. DM us on the ACSN if you've got any suggestions for the next episode. If you are interested in joining the ACSN as a ACS, obviously let us know. We're happy to discuss. If you want to be really formal, you can email us at contact@acsn.org, I believe. If not, we'll put it in the video or we'll put it in the show notes. And if you want to volunteer as being part of the ACSN, then let us know as well, and we'll be sure to have you on board. Yeah, is there anything else you want to add?
I forgot my clickbait question.
Okay.
What's the most racist thing that happened to you at uni?
Oh, nah.
You must have an experience.
It was with a crackhead. That's what I'm going to say. It involved a crackhead that just was outside of my house in second year. We just had a little encounter with a crackhead couple. They were doing some drugs in the back of our garden. That's what I might go into it in the future, but that's all there is to it, man. I don't want to say too much on the first episode. That's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you next episode.
Peace.
Nice.